Recording. Hello, everybody. Welcome to our 20th Artist Talk for this week. Well, not the 20th Artist Talk for this week, but the 20th Artist Talk for the series for the Meta Crew. With me today, I have a really great artist who I just got to meet, like talk to, well, not in person because of Twitter land, but through spaces and such. But with me today, I have ATM. And, well, ATM, if you want to introduce yourself.
Yeah, my name is ATM. Also, Dylan is my name. Most people call me that. Um, I am an artist. I've been in the NFT space for better part of a year, and I am also the co-founder and creative director of Black Hand, a decentralized esports and gaming DAO. We raised $1 million in 24 hours, and just building a bunch of cool stuff. So yeah, that's me. That's ATM.
God damn. I didn't know what. Okay, before, to those listening, literally before I did the intro, I was like, "Hey man, I'll talk to you about Black Hand because I'm trying to understand like what that is." I didn't know you guys raised $1 million in 24 for esport. What the? That's one hell of an intro. I'll give you that. Shit.
It's my favorite blurb. I love saying that. I'll be honest. It's so surreal to say as well. Um,
That's crazy. Holy shit.
yeah, you
Um,
want me to go into it?
well, please. I mean, yeah, hell yeah, let's do it.
Yeah. So, me and my friend Amir and two of our other friends, Chris and Alex, we've had Black Hand for. I think we started it in like January of 2019,
Mm.
and we just kind of kept in touch with each other, played games here and there, played Apex, et cetera, et cetera. And then once the pandemic hit, we really took streaming seriously, and we built our own community and Twitch, and it was a great time. Me and Sersu and Chris all managed to get affiliate in record time,
Oh wow.
and yeah, it was so fun to be around the community and play games, make friends, and all that. I ended up having to take a long break. I haven't been back to streaming.
Mm.
Burnout is real.
I
And
imagine.
yeah, but we after that, Amir Sarsu introduced me to NFTs and crypto. He kind of prepped me a little bit with the concept in like August, and then by December he had already had some success on known origin and shit.
Mm.
And then he was like, "Oh, you need to get in this space. Just do anything." And I hadn't really been doing my own work since then, so I sat down and made something for myself, minted it. He put the first bid on it. Then I ended up getting into the community on Telegram through this Telegram chat called Art Gallery Auction House, or AGA, who
Yeah.
basically was born there, like grew up there essentially, as far as an artist goes. Made a bunch of really cool connections, found
Mm.
found kind of my artistic voice, and that whole community was just so supportive of me. And I give them all their thanks. I shout out Aga often, especially for new people getting into the space. I think it's just a great place for you to start. And then after that, I
Mm.
managed to get an early invite from Lindsay to get on Foundation, minted my first piece. It sold for like 1.1 ETH, 1.15 ETH. And then from there, my art career kind of launched off. I took another burnout break
Mm.
because I realized that I still didn't know myself as an artist, or the story I wanted to tell, or my mission. And then that's when I started piecing together and slowly cooking up my current project, the Icon Universe, the Gospel Mark. So yeah.
Well, I had talked to you about your current project in DMs,
Hmm.
and I remember, I actually remember when Amir, or to those listening who don't know Amir, it's Sirsu on Twitter, Blackhand Sirsu. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly because I don't know how that's pronounced at all.
That's how you say it.
All right, sweet. He had shared your "I wash my hands, I say my grace." He had retweeted it, And I
Mm-hmm.
remember I don't remember what you were tweeting about, but I remember like zooming in on the work and realizing you had put um the crown of thorns
Mm-hmm.
on the old on like the old fatherly figure, and I was like,
Mm-hmm.
hold on a minute, wait, this shit ain't we haven't seen this shit in this space yet, because it's like Amir will tell you, right, like he came from Rarible. We both grew, like we both essentially went through the Rarible Discord, and then like we had our pieces sell at the Aga Nigeria, and like and SARS, was it, no, holy fuck, I'm confusing it right now, not, and my god, how am I confusing this? I literally had Daniel, sorry, I had Daniel on like 2 weeks ago, legit. um it was, I have it posted on my Instagram. It was, yeah, it was End SARS. Yeah, okay. It was the End SARS auction house. Yeah, for what was
Mm-hmm.
happening in Nigeria, and then slowly after that, I remember like seeing your tweet, and I was like get retweeted, and I was like, hold on, what is this sort of art? And then Twitter floods your timeline with like random shit, and
Mm-hmm.
then I sort of got in contact with you again fully just through the Wagme Warriors space.
Mm-hmm.
Shout out to the Wagme Warriors. I don't They don't know this series exists at all, anyways.
Right.
But if they do, they heard it.
They'll
But
probably hear it.
and then through talking to you, I was like, holy shit, I need to talk to this man. The level of art, right? Like just to in I wash my hands, I say my grace, right? Just through the inclusion of the crown of thorns, I was like, okay, symbolism, right? And we were talking about symbolism in the other space. Um, but then do you mind like explaining to those listening like what your current project is? Because like the way you described it the other time, I was like, oh my god.
Yeah. So essentially, I've been doing a lot of research on the books of the Bible and
Mm,
other works as well by association, um, that were kind of omitted from history,
okay.
removed from the Bible. The Gnostic texts are what they're called,
Sorry,
and
which text?
the Gnostic, Gnostic, the Gnostic Gospels. Um, so
Okay.
I kind of um, just went down a rabbit hole of information, very interesting concepts and creatures and ideas that these books presented that I
Mm,
had no idea were even associated with the Bible, growing up, because I grew up SDA, and
mm,
a lot of times I just took what they were saying at face value, not
mm.
fully, like not just straight on accepting it, but especially as a kid, if you're not familiar with Seven-Day Adventists, a s- it's not just this, right? There's a lot more that goes into it, but the striking difference between SDA and other Protestant Christians is that they believe that the world is going to end sooner than later.
Okay.
So I grew up constantly hearing day after day, "Oh, Jesus is coming tomorrow. Be prepared." I'm like 6, 7, 8 years
Mm.
old. I haven't had my first kiss yet, bro. I haven't held my
Yeah.
first hand. You feel me? Like there's things in life that I wanted to experience that almost felt like the people around me were trying to rob them from me.
Mm,
And it was just I was always living in kind of like a constant state of fear of the unknown, and what was you know waiting for me at the end of life type shit. And kind of as I grew up as an adult, I kind of strayed a little bit further away from the church, but I kept my spirituality. And then coming across this rabbit hole of information of things that were left out, it just kind of made me feel, well, this is, at the end of the day, a book
mm.
written by a guy or a couple guys, and then comprised into a collection of different stories and such and such. Well, if that's the case, then why can't I take the information that these books give me at face value as well?
Mm.
So I started constructing a universe of my own creation and building my own rules and worlds and systems, and basically religion almost
Mm.
within this universe. And the further and further I got, the further and more detailed and more in depth the story became that I wanted to tell.
Mm.
And eventually I arrived at this project, the Gospel of Mark, which is essentially, a almost like a subversion and modern retelling of the gospel, in, its own contained fictional story and universe with its own living and breathing characters and conflicts and history and yeah. So that's the short and the sweet of the project. I'm sure I know we've talked in the DMs, and I know you asked me questions in that space, but feel free to ask me any more questions, or if you want me to go more in depth on it, yeah.
Well, no, we will, because it's like you should see the smile on my face right now. First of all, because it's like I sort of like in my own personal experience, that's what I had decided back in my own university to do with ancient Egyptian mythology when I just like got fed up with like a bunch of stuff that I had in university, and I was like, "Fuck this shit." I
Mhm.
don't know who I am, right? And we had talked about this in spaces, right? Like this is what you're building is a project that's like essentially sort of rebuilding identity on your own claims, right? Not
Yeah.
somebody else's claims, your own interpretation. And so it's like one of those things where it's like my art history professor would say the African diaspora, and it's the valid term, right? But it's like it's something. Identity issues is something that anybody from Africa, whether they're born in the United States, Canada, South America, right? Any
Mhm.
ancestry that comes from Africa, there is huge identity issues, right? And so
Mhm.
it's like my thing was like in university, I'm like, it felt like I was the only one doing this, right? Because everybody's like, I'm painting this, and then I'm painting like beautiful
Mhm.
flowers. And I had a few friends, right? The work of Lorna, that the girl that I just linked you to talk with,
Mhm.
she's a Haitian Canadian artist, right? And so she's tackling Haitian identity and stuff, and I'm like, okay, there's something there. And then I
Mhm.
hear you talk in spaces, man, and I'm like, oh shit, this is this is exactly what's happening. Because like my belief is every deity in the world, like I wholeheartedly believe this, because like I just don't want any more problems with the religions, right? It's like every
You're about to say my favorite idea, my favorite concept. I can hear it coming. Go
it's
ahead.
is it like it's just literally every deity in the world can just coexist and interact with each other. And
Yes.
all right,
Yes.
and to me it's just like seeing that, I'm like, yes, it's to me it's possible. Like, and the elements of like world building that are happening, my professors used to hate that term because they're like, that's a video game term, and I'm like, it's not, it's really not.
It's not at all.
It's and then like my one of my favorite things also is just like you're fucking with sacred geometry. Like I haven't heard the term the cube of Megatron since fucking grade 8 geometry, no, geometry class, yeah, because I had a teacher that he was like, yo, I'll show you some fucking cool sacred geometry shit, and then I was like, what is this? And
Yeah.
then but it's like,
Yeah, that dope teacher.
man, but what you're doing is it's fucking insane. And I say it a lot, but it's just like, how like did it fully start? Like, because I see you have minted the first apostle on your foundation. Is
Mhm.
that like the full fruition of like you were like, all right, this is where I start this mission, or how did it?
Well,
How?
no. So, my previous IP project that I will go back and flesh out and
Mm,
continue, was called, the Atomic Playground. And some of the similar concepts kind of follow. The main antagonist was Adam, the original human.
okay.
Uh, and, he was malevolent and he wanted destruction and blah, 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 blah. But in this universe, and this kind of plays into some of the things that I believe, over this last year, I've kind of realized how strong my manifestation and
Mm,
willpower is. And one of my favorite, I'm kind of going to go on a little side tangent, but it is related.
do it.
One of
Do it.
my favorite books that I read as a young adult, was called the Iron Druid Chronicles. And
Mm.
in the Iron Druid Chronicles, it's this guy. He's a druid, of course, and he practices druidic magic, and
Mm.
he convenes with his gods, like the Morrigan, and all this stuff, and he comes in contact with other gods as well, like the
Mm.
Greek pantheon, the Roman pantheon, the Norse the Norse pantheon, and that Abrahamic God as well exists in this universe. And I just thought
Oh,
it was
really?
yeah, I just thought that it was such a fascinating concept for you know just some guy from this random druid has to essentially interact and sometimes take out these various gods and shit like that in this modern world. And I just love that concept. And that kind of plays back into how I constructed my atomic universe
Okay.
and the icon universe as well. Just manifestation is so powerful, and I fundamentally believe that if enough people believe it and enough people believe it strongly, it
Mm.
does exist. So the Abrahamic God, the variation of the Abrahamic God, you know, Christian version, Mormon version, the
Even the Islamic
Islamic
version. Yeah.
version. Yeah, all these different deities and versions exist within these people's minds and hearts. And I fundamentally believe that they manifest themselves in some sort of way, outside of our
Mm.
perception. Yeah,
I mean, it's
I
like
love that concept, man.
I'm right there with you. Like, I sort of ripped my concept from American Gods because I told you in DMs like that show.
Mhm.
I haven't fully read the books. My girlfriend has read the books and she's like, it's good, and I haven't had the time. But the show, like to me, it was like the first time other than God of War, right? And the show came out before the God of War remake or like revitalization game, if you will.
Mhm.
But there, I was like watching essentially like this incarnation of Thoth, right?
Mhm.
And start to interact with I forget the name of the guy, but well I oh yeah Thor. No, not Thor. Odin. And
Mhm.
I'm like, hold on a minute. Pause. Right? And then
Right.
it's just like bullshit I would say, like pause.
Right.
And the concept in like the book and what Neil Gaiman wrote is like, yeah, like these gods are still there because of the power of belief and faith. And I was like, yeah, that's actually sort of true of how religions die out, like other than like the killing of them, right? But it's like still
Mhm.
like if we were to put it into like or like not terms, but if we try to like visualize how a god can exist, it's like your faith in it in the god is what manifests the god, right? Allows
Mhm.
the god to exist, and then once you no longer believe in it, god's gone. That
Exactly.
specific, and then
Exactly.
my favorite thing is just like it also opens up for the play for artists, right? Because it's like before, you could have like sort of Islamic and Christian works or like Islamic and like well, actually, I've never seen any Islamic works hybridized with anything, really. But it's like now, essentially, like with that sort of belief, like you can have these cooperative like works, and like gods can interact, and you can like create
Mhm.
mythology where gods interact with each other, and you can form those like bonds culturally and mythologically, if you will, right?
Mhm.
Uh,
Yeah, and I think also,
mm,
especially with this project, learning not only the contents of these lost books, these Gnostic texts and Gospels, um, not only was that enlightening, but then you kind of realize these were uncovered recently, and the reason why they weren't uncovered with a lot of other things is because they were actively removed, like actively sought out, or these ideas only represented a small minority that maybe didn't have the power to preserve their ideas. But somehow, we managed to recover 80% of a text, or better part of the full text, or whatever, or even just an excerpt. But it means that as I create these stories, these concepts and ideas, legends, myths, religion almost, that when I make this project and I mint it, put it on chain, these ideas that I present in my own light will be forever. Nobody will be able to remove them as long as Ethereum exists. And I can see Ethereum persisting, the blockchain and everything on it persisting for almost the rest of civilization type thing.
It's
So I think it's just there's something so powerful about the modern era where we can bring these stories back and then like make them permanent. Like nobody can, you can't, a government, like a government body, a country can't seek out these texts or like in a library and burn it down like the Library of Alexandria. They can't do
oh yeah.
that. It's everywhere. Like it's backed up everywhere. It's on the interplanetary file system, man. Like there's nowhere it's gonna go. It's gonna be forever, and that's so exciting to me.
It's exciting to me too, and it's like it's great that you brought up the Library of Alexandria because that's one of my biggest motivations. Because a lot of people don't realize how much knowledge was actually lost in
Hmm.
the burning of that library. Because the moment you as a foreigner stepped into the lands of Egypt, your books were confiscated, not burnt, but they were confiscated, copied, and put in that library, and then
Hmm.
given back to you. And Alexander, not Alexander, fucking Caesar,
Hmm.
just essentially, if the scientists and their calculations are true, set us back 1,000 years of technological advancements
Yeah,
and like knowledge. And I'm just sitting here like we could have had fucking Atlantis fucking floating ship right now,
that's what
and
I'm saying.
right, like pyramids everywhere, fucking technology like Tesla globes all over the fucking, I don't know, Tesla towers, excuse me,
Mhm.
right? But it's like uh, people need to, and to those listening, like if you're listening to this and you're like, I never thought of this, you gotta realize how powerful this archivable ability, like this archivable nature this blockchain has, because of how much lost knowledge there is, like or
Right.
that's been already lost, right? And it's like the sands of time is a saying, right? But it's true because it just, if you can't find it, fuck, it's gone, it's lost to time.
It's
and
lost. Yeah.
and then here you are like minting yourself to where it has the verifiable record everywhere, right? It's like if your pyramid ain't going nowhere, which is great.
Exactly.
And then like my favorite thing also is like governments can't come after you, right?
Right.
Religions can't come after you, right?
Hmm.
None of that. You're completely just safe from that sort of censorship in it, and it's great. Um,
Very powerful. It's also very dangerous too.
I
We've
agree.
seen a lot of very dangerous ideas and rhetoric minted. Of course, these some of these platforms have the ability to delist, so you don't
Mm,
see. But at the end of the day, you find the smart contract, you find, the link to the file, and it's there forever. There's nothing that you can do about it until someone gets their hands on it and burns it. And
it's true.
even still, the record of it existed from the beginning to its end. And I think there's a big responsibility on ourselves to make sure that we almost celebrate, you know, holding on to our culture and our
Mm,
history and ideas. Because if we just kind of let it run rampant, which I don't believe, I believe humanity um, will kind of catch on, but um, we just let this shit run rampant. Then what? We just kind of have, it's almost like there's this theory, the nihilism theory, where the more advanced we get, the more technologically sound we get, and the further and further we go, the more that the more people do, and the less
mm.
less people can kind of morally enforce um, ideas onto other people until we kind of reach a point where you can't really say, "Oh, I don't see why they can do that." Like,
Mm.
like you would look at somebody, killing a dog or something. It's like, I get it. I get it. They can
It's
do it. Why am I, alienating their right to do something, right?
it's that,
But
and it's like, what's the point? Like
right,
what?
yeah, exactly. So it can be very dangerous, but I think that this, like,
Mm,
Web3 and the crypto thing, the rise of crypto and blockchains and permanizing, I don't know if that's a word, but just making
mm,
solidifying culture and ideas and people's art and expression, especially when you look at the times that we're in right now. I think that we're at a turning point. We're at a tower moment in humanity where once we pass this hump, this hurdle, I think it's about to be smooth sailing. Like, we're about to see some crazy stuff go down.
I it's, I agree with you. I watched somebody had put a clip of, I think, Metal Gear Solid's 2 ending video,
Mm-hmm.
where it's like Solid Snake's talking to the AI, and the AI goes, because of the power of the internet, we've given up the essentially the idea of the natural evolution of thought, just
Mm-hmm.
through stuff being forgotten and the important stuff we keep on remembering and passing down, right?
Mm-hmm.
On the internet, I mean, like, you can delete your tweets, right? But we can still find them, right? Internet
Mm-hmm.
archive is a thing, and so everything is forever, and so that's why we're like, I saw this YouTube video, and it tied it to where it's like, that's why we're seeing the resurgence of flat Earth, all these like
Mm-hmm.
weird fucked theories, and it's because it's no longer, you're no longer telling that person, like, yo, like, nobody listened to this person, we're not giving you access to that person. And it's like, it's also a matter of, like, should they have access to that person? Yeah, but it's like the way it used to be back then, right? Where it's like, that's like, in like I'd say the 90s, for example, hey, that's a flat
Mm-hmm.
earther, like, like, okay, that's fucking
Yeah,
weird,
weirdo.
right? And then, but now, because of so many videos that haven't been allowed to die, and like, people are like, yeah, but I've measured it in Alaska, and you're like, what the fuck, what are you talking about, right? And it just like, it hasn't been allowed to die, and it just keeps getting brought back and brought back. And then the weirdest thing I've been noticing is, like, all these things are being brought back in, like, uh, you watch anime, right?
Of course.
You've seen the Full Metal Alchemist. You
Mm-hmm.
you know how the mom comes back, like, first episode, and she's like all like,
Fucked up.
yeah, and then, like, that's when you fully learn, like, why you don't fuck with, like, well, I forget the name of the magic, but like that sort of dark part of, like, that Full Metal Alchemist universe, and
Yeah.
that sort of feels like these arguments back again. You're like, what the hell have you morphed into?
Right.
Have you,
Yeah. Just it's almost like incest in a way, where it's a lot of, especially, yeah, with like
mm,
the advent of the internet and the immediacy of communication and the ability to kind of have your own little circles of thought and not really have anybody intrude on it. If a bunch of people on the sounding board saying the same thing over and over, you just kind of breed on the same fucked up idea over and over and over again. You don't you don't seek out for anything else to challenge yourself or to grow. Then you just, at the end of it, it just becomes this, unrecognizable monster that it's going to be harder and harder to deal with.
I agree. I mean, I'm not, like, part of the thing that keeps me going is, I believe that, this space, like, how everybody says it's the wild wild west, and we sort of
Mm-hmm.
having, like, not even regulation, but just like the normal curation and the normal education that one has when looking at the fine art space hasn't sort of made its way here. And like, there are many looks in many, like, bad ways to look at stuff in the fine arts world, but there's also, like, many advancements, right, that the fine art world has made in matter of depictions, subject matter, right, like,
Mm-hmm.
all of that. And so I hope, part of me is hoping that it's a matter of time until that education gets onboarded onto here, and then
Mm-hmm.
that cream, like, essentially the cream rises to the top, and then the I don't know if there's an opposite to that saying, actually.
You could say, like, I don't know, too much yeast flattens a cake or something. I don't know.
There you go. There you go. Too much yeast flatten the cake. Is that a thing? Actually, I've never
I
fucked
believe
with
so.
yeast.
I believe so.
Like I had a weird like mental baking phase, if you will, where I was like, yeah, I'm a bake. I'm gonna do this because I used to work in restaurants, and I was like, I can make my own pasta, and then I did it once, and I was like, ooh, might as well make my own bread, and then
Right.
got the yeast, but never made the fucking bread. It's just sitting there.
Yeah, I think this is just we're just talking about bread now, but I think you get too much yeast, and there's like breads that are flat, and you get flat breads by adding more yeast. I believe I could be
What
100%
the?
wrong. I don't bake. I don't bake. This is all just like concepts that I've picked up, kind of like trivia, but I believe
Okay,
that is the case.
I'm gonna need to try that. My girlfriend got a, a mixade. I don't know what you call those things. It's the thing that makes.
Oh, blender,
Well, no, but it's like
the brand.
a KitchenAid. That's what it's called.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
That thing fucking looks like a mini transformer in my
yeah.
kitchen.
Yep. Yo, yeah, blenders like not blenders,
Kitchen,
mixers are scary,
yeah,
bro.
it's wild. And then, I mean, like, oh yeah, but and then she tells me all about the attachments, and I'm like, how many attachments can you have for a KitchenAid? And she's like, you can make bread with this one, you can make this with this one, and I'm like,
Mhm,
oh wow, this is advanced,
mhm,
right? So many tools.
mhm.
And it's like it's so detailed too. Like you can't fuck up. You can't fuck up with your bread.
Yeah, if you do, then it was you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
these are facts, big facts. I I'm looking at your work and I'm man. Did you go to university? Did you go to college? Or are you self taught? Like how are
Uh,
you painting these figures? Please.
mostly self-taught. Yeah, I did go to, I went all the way through high school. I went to college or yeah, university for a little bit,
Mm.
for like a year and a half. But my major was computer science. I actually wanted
Oh.
to go for an art degree. Like it
Mm.
was, I was like constructing a multidisciplinary degree, like a little bit of photography, a little bit of film, and art and drawing and all that. And I wanted to really take it seriously, but my family kind of bullied me into going computer science because
Mm.
I had a scholarship for it, but that's not what I wanted to do. So I ended up dropping out, and yeah, it's been like 3 years since then.
Mm.
Um, yeah, all for the most part self-taught. I had some people in my life that helped me, like propelled me forward in my journey in
Okay.
art. But like for example, my first grade teacher was the first person who really got me interested in art because I'm a I can be a pretty analytical mind. I'm pretty
Mm.
good at math. Um,
Oh, okay. I'm jealous.
and don't be jealous. I'm not that good now. The advanced concepts are kicking my ass. But
It's you add letters to me, I'm gone. That's
yeah,
it.
yeah, that's yeah. When they start bringing the weird equations and formulas and shit, that's when I clock out. Um, but she came to me. We were doing cityscapes. She said, "Dylan, when you go into the city and you look at the skyline, don't the buildings closer to you like obscure the buildings behind?" And it just made me think about observation and art and
Oh.
just like observing the actual world and translating that into your own world of creation. And I used that idea and made my little cityscape, and she nominated it to go to the our local art gallery, art museum, the Frisch Center,
Oh
as a kid,
wow.
as a first grader. So, and my family still has like the little prints or whatever from then, and they still like, oh yeah, do you want one? Like we still have those. And but the my family didn't really believe that I was an artist. They more so thought it was like, oh, he cracked the code this time, but he's a
Mm.
math guy. He's a builder, because I'd been talking about um robotics. Like I wanted to build robots and shit like that as a kid. I didn't want to build robots the same way that
You
the same
actually
way that these. I just wanted to make something cool, but to
mm.
make something. And they didn't really understand that, like piece that together. Like, I'm a kid and I want to make things. Not necessarily I wanted to be an engineer or whatever, but that was the path they kind of pushed me along. And then in high school, I had an art teacher. Um, I regret not going to art. Like, I
Mm,
regret not doing art class like my freshman year. Ended up being junior year until I took art. And I remember we did a project, and my art teacher was like, Dylan, why haven't you been here? Like, why haven't you been in art class? I'm like, that's just not where people put me in. She's like, no, 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 no. We have to put you in AP art here. Like,
oh
join this,
wow, AP,
join this.
nice.
Yeah. Or it wasn't AP. I didn't want to be AP, but
Okay,
I think it was honors art. She like moved me up in the class because she's like, I'm teaching these kids the basics.
yo,
We
it's
need to like challenge you on some stuff, like teach you some new things. And then she added me to this after school art program as well.
oh wow,
I
yeah.
definitely learned some things, and I met some really, really cool artists. Um, but like I said, after that, went to college and then just did computer science. I was also blessed to
Mhm.
have a amazing art teacher and mentor in college because I insisted that I took an art class. I'm
Nice.
horrible at school, so I didn't. I wasn't doing the homework and shit like that. But even still, his name is Brandon Donahue. He ended up moving out of Nashville. That's where I'm
Mm.
from. Um, but he is an amazing artist. He makes these like basketball blooms where he cuts them up and like arranges them like flowers. He does airbrushing, and he's an amazing artist. And he was kind of like, yo, like he was pushing me to, do more and all that. And we ended up still having a really good relationship, even though I wasn't doing well in school.
Mm.
And, I think that also kind of gave me a little bit more confidence to take my art a little bit more seriously. Ended up doing a lot of cover arts for the next couple of years, and ended up starting a collective with my homies and being the creative director for that. So I did all the flyers and all the creative,
God
all the
damn.
direction and shit for that. Arranged music videos, hosted
Ugh.
parties and shit like that. But wasn't until this year where I really took my craft seriously. So
Mm.
yeah.
God, what the? Yo, you've done a lot, sir. You shit. Like, I had I went to art um from high school. Like, and my dad was the one that got me into art because he's deaf, and so like his thing was like
Hmm.
I can't sit and we can't listen to music with my boy, and him and my mom were resistant to TV up until the age of 10, so he would just like sit and draw. Um, but it's like my favorite thing is like when somebody's like, yeah, I had an art teacher, because everybody has like that one person that just like
Hmm.
believed in them or like taught them one thing that you're like, hold on a minute,
Yeah, and
like,
then you just keep going.
right? It's like my thing is like I remember joining in grade 8 for like this girl, right? Because I had a crush on this girl, and it was like
Yeah.
everybody was like, yo, she's in art class, and I was like, okay, cool. But then I signed up to the wrong fucking semester, right?
Damn.
But I was like, fuck it, might as well. This is art class, grade 8. And then I got hooked on it. I was like, it was so much fun. And then I had this one teacher that did cross hatching, and he taught me everything that like I take to heart now. And then university does like some weird fucking shit. But I'm
Hmm.
like, man, I'm looking at some of your figures, and I'm like, sir, like, are you sure? Like, you look like you've been painting hands for like 20 years. Well, you might have been painting hands for 20 years. I don't know what you've been painting while you were fuck. And like, also, this is one question that I'm very curious about.
Hmm.
In I wash my hands, I say my grace.
Hmm.
The yellow sock. What does that signify?
So so I'm gonna kind of go back and then answer your question in a
Mm.
little bit. My method, my medium was graphite, because I was just doodling on
Okay.
back of homework and shit like that, and I would look at people's faces and try to draw them on my page. And um, I can. I might go back and find the picture of my sketchbook from a couple years ago, but I think it's a pretty good face that I drew. I was like, damn, I'm kind of cracked. Um, but just like observing people and kind of finding the math in their face and all that and the proportions and shit like that is just kind of how I kind of got to my art level. I don't think that I'm really that good. I think I'm more like medium level artist.
Okay,
Um,
okay.
I just
Bro, everybody I meet on here just tells me, yeah, I'm okay, and then,
I'm definitely not bad, but
but,
there's 100% a lot of stuff I need to learn. I got a huge ass anatomy book so I can really understand like how muscles and bones and all that kind of stuff like link together and work together so I could better uh, kind of recreate the human body at in a faster rate and a more accurate rate. But just observation and for this for I wash my hands, I say my grace. I literally just had How Much a Dollar Costs by Kendrick Lamar looping for
okay,
like over and over and over because I love that song. And one of my projects that I wanted to do when I was the creative director of our collective was kind of shoot music videos that for songs that there were none, or kind of paint the picture in my head, the things that I see
Mm.
when I listen to the song. So I realized that I could just do that in my artwork. So I sat down
okay.
and I got myself a couple references of the people in that painting, and I saw this homeless man just sitting down, the picture of this homeless man just sitting down, and I saw he only had one sock on. And I was just like, this is such a telling, it just
Mm,
kind of it just him just existing is just telling the story. And I wanted to kind of have that, like, he only has one sock on, but it's yellow, like you're drawn to it, right?
yeah,
And it's kind of like, and he's kind of disheveled, his clothes are dirty, his hair is unkempt, his beard is unshaven. And I did also like made it a point not to show his eyes because
I noticed that too.
I have I find that the eyes are often the key to emotion, or like the key to somebody's soul.
Mm,
And looking into them will kind of tell you, who they are, or what they're feeling. And I wanted to make a point to remove that
mm,
from him because I wanted it more to be a statement of who this person was more than how they felt, right?
mm,
And more so put you in the view and the mind of the person in the foreground looking and observing this man,
mm.
and kind of coming to terms and understanding who he is, than trying to dissect the feelings of the old man or whatever. Like the man is, if you've heard the song How Much a Dollar Costs, right?
Yeah,
The line that I'm drawn to is at the back half of the song where the homeless man says, "You're looking at the Messiah, the Son of Jehovah, the higher power, the choir that's struck the nerve," and that speech that kind of resonates with me is like, oh, is this person Jesus? Is this person the Messiah? Is this
I
person God? Or is this just a crazy ass homeless man that's just spewing facts? Like, is he really gonna enact retribution on Kendrick? Like, is this really the guy, or what? And that whole moral dilemma just fascinated me. It's a
it's
beautiful song, and I just wanted to depict that the best way I could.
I mean, you just reminded me of a book that I used to read when I was a kid. I don't remember what it's called because when I was a kid, I just look at the pictures and avoid the words because I was like, cool pictures. But
Hmm.
like in mythology, right? Like gods like to fucking test the faith of their followers
Yeah.
by being the poor homeless figure, right?
Hmm.
And it's like one of those things. I mean, like in the stories that I've read, right? It's like those who like take care of the poor man, right, get
Hmm.
rewarded, and those who do not don't. But it's like to modernize, like, and it's like one of those concepts that you hear about like, this is a story from long ago or whatever, right? But it's like
Mm-hmm.
it's also one of my favorite things about Kendrick's work is just like the modernization of like the religious like references that he
Yes.
had. Like
Yeah.
I just found out what the 70 means when like or
Mm-hmm.
what the way he used it, and I was like, hold, wait, pause, we gotta like I gotta go back and reread some shit because
Mm-hmm.
like
Same for me when and sorry to cut you off.
no, 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 go ahead.
When because what really struck me like about that Kendrick feature more recently on Baby Keem's song Family Ties, um what really struck me about that is I had been on the Metatron thing for a minute, right? I was like, yo, this like concept is so cool. I was already like in the trenches essentially of building my story, of building the icons. And hearing that was like, yo, he's on the same path, and just like kind of being inspired that he sees himself in that way and that he almost lives in the game, like lives in the rap game, just kind of inspired me to take this to a whole nother level. And the 70 elders as well. I wasn't necessarily familiar with, the actual logistics of that story.
Mm.
And then hearing that made me hearing Metatron and Gabriel um and then eventually the 70, and I was like, well, what's the 70? So then I went and did my own research, and then I incorporated that in my own project too, because it's such a cool, nod to history and cool idea and concept to kind of retrofit to your own narrative, story, universe, all that.
I mean, it's we're on the same wavelength here.
Yeah.
It's like because when like it's essentially my favorite thing is it's happening in like so many creative minds are doing this, and what's being built is like this culture slowly, right? Because it's like,
Yeah.
I mean, one of my favorite things about Kendrick's videos is literal like the literal symbolism the man just uses. It's like you don't realize how good it can be until you see it, right? It's like you don't it's one of those things where it's like you don't realize, oh shit, we can do this, or like this can be depicted in that way until you see it. And then he goes about doing certain stuff and says certain stuff, and you're like, hold on, like he's recreating and he's modernizing, and he's like very aware of the issues that are happening, right, with identity and people like
Yeah.
trying to realize who they are, right? And then I mean, like just like the whole "I am from the seven," like I'm the 70 line, right? It's like trying to we're from the origin, right? It's or at least that's
Yeah.
how it's. I'm not fully versed in religion in Christian like
Mythos.
mythos, if you will. It's also like, well, here's the thing, right? In Egypt, we have Coptic Christians, and then we have
Mm.
Orthodox Christians, and then we have
Mm-hmm.
Catholic Christians.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I mean, like, if you go into the Sahara, I'm pretty sure you'll find some Bedouin version of Christianity. It does
Mm-hmm.
exist, right? And so it's like, and then Egypt is not the nicest of place. So it's like,
Nope.
no, it's so it's like the education there is it's pretty it's very lacking, to where it's like only when I came to Canada did I realized like some of like the importance of like Christian symbolism and what it means, and I'm like, oh, damn.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I honestly, as somebody who's gotten into anime and
Mm,
storytelling, I love One Piece, by the way. The world building, storytelling, they all have their own cultures, religions, and, factions and all conflicts, and the world is constantly moving and evolving. And I just love how the story is told. But just getting into all this and storytelling and finding all this lore and all that, and then coming across Christianity and realizing, damn, low key, this shit is cool as fuck. There's so
right.
much cool shit in the Bible, as just from a lore and storytelling perspective, that especially in Western Christianity, mostly Protestant
Mm,
Christianity, they don't talk about that shit at all. They don't brush up on that at all. Or when they do, in at least in my experience, it's to scare you,
mm,
right? And even in my church, there's a bunch of like not the truth is not being told.
Mm,
The angels, they look like the European angels that they
mm.
were painting in 1400, 1500. White babies and white wings and white Jesus in a robe and shit. And it's like, bro, that's not the truth. Look at the history, because religion is not, just religion. Religion didn't come out of nowhere. Christianity did not exist in fucking 4000 BC, bro.
Yeah.
It was a human concept. Something happened to make people believe this way, and that's history. So there's something about finding the history of things and the time period and what was going on. Were there wars? Was there famine? Was there sickness? Like, what made people look
Yeah.
to this or build this and then follow it, worship it, and tell it for thousands of years, along the way?
And even then, like, just like as a matter of depictions, like some of when somebody delves into the actual sort of depictions that are in the Bible or in the Quran doesn't have many depictions because Islam mostly avoids depictions of prophets and such.
Hmm.
But when you delve into that shit, like the figures described are some of the gnarliest things that it's like a person can think of. Like angels, I don't know which classification of angel it is because right we have archangels. Even in Islam
There's
we have a lot,
nine,
but it's
nine. Yeah,
you
keep
know
going.
the eye with the wings around it.
It's I believe, yeah, seraphim.
Yeah, Seraphim. You were talking about that one in the spaces yesterday, but or the other day. It's like just the look of that and the mythos. Like
Hmm.
just trying to describe that is just like oh wow. It's like akin to like trying to imagine Hades in Greek
Yeah,
mythology, literally. And then like in Egypt we hear a lot about Azrael, right, the angel of death,
yeah.
because and so, like, growing up in Egypt, like, I'm Googling fucking, like, the literally the angel of death on Google Images trying to find out, like, this dude with a skeleton and a fucking scythe looking cool as hell. I'm like, is this the dude that's gonna come
Yo,
get us? Is that
yo,
him?
yo. And then I don't know if it's the same person, like if it's the same person with different names,
Mm.
but there's another angel of death, or the same one, left hand of God. His name is Samael, I believe. And his depiction is literally the same, like big, big, towering black figure with eyes all over his body and a big scythe, and he collects the souls of the damned. Like,
You
that
gotta.
shit is fucking metal, dude.
It's
That is awesome. And then even looking at some of the visual depictions of Enoch's description of heaven, of his journey through heaven and hell and what he saw, looking at like some of the visual recreations of that is unreal. You just look and you're like, this is what he saw. I would have gone insane. Like, this is unreal to
it's
see. I would have been like, yo, I would have been scared out of my balls. Like, I'd have been, if I was Enoch, I'd been like, yo, this is the reality of my life, of like the end of the life, end of my life. Like, this is what I'm gonna see in heaven. Sure, I could come to terms with it, but it's jarring, the actual descriptions of these creatures. And yeah, it's crazy.
I actually I delved into a video. It sort of described Enoch, but it described where like sort of Enochian like Hermeticism, that sort of thing came
Oh,
from, and when it was describing the Book of Enoch, I think it's called the Book of Enoch. I'm not
yeah, it is.
right, and I was like, hold on a minute, like this sounds like so much material that you can draw from, revolutionize and modernize for
Yes, it's so cool.
right, and it's like I have you looked into Islam at all, like.
Yeah, so part of my research is kind of understanding the concepts of why these things were written in
Mm.
Christianity, why these books came to be, like the concepts behind them, what possibly fueled them. I'm looking at the concept and creation of Satan over time, the ideas and like Zoroastrianism that influenced it, and it's gotten me into Jewish Kabbalism, Hermeticism as well. Um, and I think Islam is kind of on my marquee to get a little bit further into, but
Very
that's where kind of Christianity comes from, honestly. Because Judaism kind of spawned from Islam. Islam is the oldest religion, if I'm not, or
no.
one of the oldest, if I'm not
So
mistaken.
it's Judaism came first, and then Christianity, and then Islam.
Oh, Islam was late, most recent.
Yeah, it's if in the Quran it says like God's put Muhammad as the last prophet, and this
Mhm.
is the last religion. But but that's the thing, is the Abrahamic religions have integrated each other.
Mhm.
That's why some people that's why like people will like confuse them, because like fuck all like the weird shit that's happening in the Middle East, right? Like
Mhm.
all like the ISIS shit. We don't fuck them, right? The it like the Quran incorporates and acknowledges Jesus, right? And in the same way, sort of like the Bible incorporates the Old Testament within itself and
Mhm.
revolutionize. Well, I don't know if it's revolutionized, right? But it's like the Old Testament and the New Testament. I think the Old Testament is the Torah, but it's just taught a bit differently. I think I'm not too
Mhm.
sure, right? And so it's like they adopt each. They're literally built on top of each other in this
Yeah.
weird sense,
Yeah. A
and
lot of the same ideas.
it's like I'll send you some weird shit, because like like Muslims will tell you like, yo, we don't fuck with magic, we don't do this shit, right? But yo, oh no, we
Same
have,
for Christians.
yo, like I was
But
watching
there's keep going.
no, well, like I was gonna say, like I was watching a video that explained what talismanic magic was, and I was like,
Yeah, it's
Egyptians do
where
that shit all the fucking time, like.
you're watching Esoterica.
So no, it was a. I'll try to find the YouTube channel. It was like this random. Well, like honestly, I'm low key like I always get impressed when white boys can speak Arabic, and so I found this dude able to pronounce like the name Muhammad correctly, and I was like, "Who the hell are you?" And then his channel just like is all about mythology from different religions.
Yeah,
It's
I think it is Esoterica, or maybe not. I think there is another. There's a kid who goes deep into like icebergs.
uh
Um.
esoteric. I'm gonna Google that. I sent
Oh
you the
yeah,
link.
oh,
Oh, hello.
I think my cousin's cooking downstairs. um.
Is your cousin cooking something, or?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I think it just went down. I have came across this channel, Let's Talk Religion. The channel Esoterica, you should 100% look into, because he talks about. So his channel is basically centered around finding magic within religions.
Mhm.
So
I'm gonna
yeah,
definitely.
there's like he's shown like some of the magic and spells and ideas and stuff that they had in early Christianity and Judaism and Islam as well. Just these kind of spells and incantations and stuff that they would use, invoked, kind of invoking the angels or God or whatever to do things like, as kind of administer holy medicine, even though it really wasn't helping too
True.
much. And,
Yeah.
just these kind of rituals and practices that they did. But you go back in history and, as an SDA, there's this like almost like vehement hatred of magic. Like some of the kids in like growing up, um my parents were pretty
Mhm.
lax. Thankfully my parents were pretty lax as far as like the media that I consumed. But
Mhm.
I watched Harry Potter and shit as a kid, and I would like come to church. I'm like, yo, you see Harry Potter or blah blah blah, and they're like, no, my parents won't let me watch it. And I'm like, what? And they're like, yeah, because of there's magic and witches
Oh
and
yeah.
and then I'm like, yeah, but it's not real. It's a movie. And the disconnect
Y-
is
You know,
it's real.
I had to I had to deal with the same thing in Egypt, but a little bit differently, because I fully understand how you feel, because like you would look at them, you're like, what the like, what do you mean? It's not real. It's
Yeah.
not offensive. It's a different form of entertainment.
Mm.
But in Egypt, every time a metal concert happens, the next day, and I literally mean the next day, a concert comes out that says, venue this supports Satanism through their concert.
Damn.
And it's like it was, and we used to joke about it in Egypt until one day we have this festival called the Wall of Death, right? A heavy metal festival
Sounds
where
awesome.
it's fucking great. It's like sweaty fucking 40-year-old Egyptian dudes drunk as hell. Like you get to see a side of like Muslim countries that you don't see that often, and it's like very hidden. We hide it, like legitimate. It's like the same motherfuckers that you see in those will literally be praying the next 3 days, like straight up, right? But it's like, and like the alcohol and like the kissing and the PDA that happens in that shit, it's wild.
Hmm.
But so we like the before I came to Canada, like I one of my friends was like, yo, let me show you fucking metalhead Egyptians. We gotta see this. We're there, we're having fun, and literally the next day the article is there. We're reading it in school, and I
Hmm.
see the picture that this person has taken, and my fucking friend is in it, and my fucking
Damn.
bun. Because I used to have a hair, like I used to have long hair, and I would tie it in like this weird bun.
Hmm.
And I'm just like standing, luckily, behind the person they were taking a picture of, and you can just see my bun in the back, and I'm like, wow, shit.
Yeah, that was close, huh?
It's
Damn.
well, like we also like we test them, right? It's like when somebody starts taking pictures of us, we are like we literally like Egyptians will look them dead in the eye and be like, "Yes, we sacrifice goats for Satan." So we don't help ourselves. It's like, oh my, that was a wild time. I'm thank you for esoteric. I'm gonna check that out because like it's, and I'll also send you some stuff because like
Of course.
when I found some like supposedly, right, Muslims, it no longer happens now, but there used to be this form of like grade magic that invokes God or Allah, right, that you
Hmm.
write on like pottery or like something like made out of metal, right?
Hmm.
And when I was watching the video, the guy used, it's like, yeah, it would help with birth, and I was like, hold the fuck on, like this shit, we don't get taught about this at all. Like
Hmm.
you bring that up in like, right, for example, like you bring it up if you had brought like any sort of like actual like paganistic practices up into the church, people would have freaked the fuck out, right? And then it's like the same thing where it's like nobody brings that shit up, and it's like it's crazy what you can find. Like I'm excited. Like what's, well, I sort of know what the future of your icon project is because you you said you were, well, actually, do you want to tell those listening what the future of fully
Yeah, it's actually
is?
kind of changed a little bit since that space. Um,
Oh, okay.
so so yeah, I'm planning to drop everything on my birthday, December 2nd. It's definitely not the whole story. It's barely the
Mm,
beginning, really. It's really just a launching point for me to start telling this kind of collaborative storytelling venture, and I'm planning on hitting multimedia. So of course visuals, but also music videos, short films, articles, lore, artifacts, all that kind of shit.
damn.
Um, but and on top of that, with that, I am dropping a curated PFP collection called the 70 Elders Project,
Mm,
where I will be kind of hand selecting. Well, not really hand selecting. They'll be going off on auction and stuff, but I'll be kind of curating and selling these 70 elders and putting the faces of Black and Indigenous folk kind of in the position of these godly figures, these almost like, yeah, religious figureheads within this universe, and just wanted to make Black people look cool, look powerful, and all that in this project. So I'll be dropping that as well on my
mm,
birthday. But I actually kind of changed around the plans a
mm,
little bit because talking to everyone kind of made me realize just the scope of this project and what is possible and what the people want, right?
mm,
So I have a music video on the way. I am, yeah, yeah. Yesterday, got together with my crew and kind of hashed out a rough storyboard. Talked to this guy who has a bunch of equipment, and he's going to DP. next week gonna fly everybody out to the desert, and we're gonna shoot for a couple days, and then it should be ready by the time everything else is ready. So that's exciting. Um, it's kind of daunting because I basically got the bill for everything, like the whole project. It's gonna be upwards of 25K to produce. So
Damn.
kind of a surreal bill, but this is my baby. Like, this is my project, and I know people are gonna love it.
What? So 20, like around 20K for the whole project, or just like that music video?
Just for the music video.
Oh
Just for
Jesus.
just for the music video. But like I said, I'm excited
Mm.
because we got the vision, we have the crew, and yeah, it's basically going to be kind of like an introduction, like a moving introduction to the series as well. So you're going to see there's a place in this world. It's set in America. It's called
Mm.
Middle America, and the span of desert in the middle of America, like out west, up until like the Appalachian Mountains and stuff in this universe, is all called Gehenna, Hell on Earth. So it's gonna kind of be exploring a little bit of that and kind of what that entails, and following one of the main characters, Hakeem Iscariot, as he kind of does his daily routes, and he's gonna be collecting a bounty for a Nephilim, a giant, and
Mm.
kind of tracking him throughout the day. So it's gonna be. I'm really excited for it. I'm really so excited for it. But another thing for that project kind of shifted. I think I'm gonna do a crowd fund just so that
Okay.
I can kind of have the flexible room to produce all these things. I want to hit up this guy, Nick Drapinski, I believe is how you say his last name. He's the
Mm.
current artist for Static Shock. I want to see if I can talk to him and work with him, collab with him on making a comic.
Oh.
So
Yo.
yeah, just a lot of things in the works. But I'm like I said, this is a project that's almost bigger than me, if not bigger than me. But
Mm.
I feel like I'm definitely the person to shepherd this into creation. So I'm so excited.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited for it too. Like I had told you, like I think it's like what you're doing is already amazing, and then the fact that you're also including, Amir, and I think
Bria.
Bria, right?
Mm-hmm.
She's Amir's girlfriend, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and Bria, and then I forget that I saw him on Twitter, Peepone,
Peen Poon, yeah. So
Peepone, yeah.
the current faces, like the faces that are currently in this project, are it's me,
Mm,
my friend Shanoa, who is the character Miriam,
mm.
my friend Ronan, who is the character Hakeem. He's also a very talented music artist. Um, and Peen Poon, Amir as well, and kind of a local legend in Nashville, John Gotti, and Bria. So those are the current faces, but I have some more faces already in the works. I'm asking people for references and shit like that. And on top of that, I have some people who are very excited / interested to curate some of these faces and kind of bring this world alive. So yeah, bro, it's gonna be really fun. I'm so excited.
I'm very excited. But I also have another question. So I'm pretty sure the John Gotti you guys keep referencing is not the American gangster.
No,
John
no, no,
Gotti. Who
no, no.
who's John Gotti? Because I heard that a few times and I was like, hold on, it's not him. And I don't. Is that like you said, like a Nashville, like sort of?
Yeah, local. He's actually more than a local legend.
Okay.
John Gotti is a super sneakerhead. So I met John Gotti through his daughter. I ended up taking
Mm,
her to Cotillion. Her mom is really good friends with my mom, but John Gotti ran this publication for Complex, I believe. I forget what it's called, but essentially he ran down, the latest sneakers or the holy
okay.
grails and stuff like that. He's a huge sneakerhead, and I wanted to include him because he's a style inspiration for me. He's about my height, and he wears clothes the way that I want to wear clothes. Has immaculate style, super cool guy, and kind of like modeling my style later into my life, like 40s plus after him, because he's so clean. So yeah, that's John Gotti.
Yeah, and I was like, first time I was heard it, I was like, okay. And then you started talking about the religious themes and stuff. I'm like, well, it can't be that. So like, who is it? And like to those listening, like I already told you this in DMs, and I think I said it in the space. But like putting your friends into the works, right, and putting oneself into the works is a very important move in
Mm,
into like this identity building effort, right? It
mhm.
needs to happen because otherwise, how
Not
else?
how you're
Uh,
gonna be connected to it.
exactly, right? It's like who else is gonna like nobody else is gonna be able to see themselves in it if you can't see yourself in it, or it's
Right,
like,
right.
and I mean, man, like the symbol, I'm legitimately excited. It's like one of those things where I'm like, sometimes I go on Instagram and I'm like, I should post about some of this shit, and then I do, and then nobody responds, and I'm like, because like
I
how
hate
like
Instagram.
I hate it too. I fucking it's the worst thing on the planet. Hey, promote this on. Holy fuck. But it's like I try to like tell my uni friends, and then on a couple of occasions I've tweeted like, or not tweeted, but I've posted like, hey, there is some art history shit happening in this
Mhm.
space, and nobody's responded, and I'm like, really, like
Mm,
what,
People don't
like
care. People
they
don't care until it's in their face.
it's true, and but like that's the thing that excites me is like so many people don't realize what's being built in the space that it's
Mhm.
just gonna like it's gonna be like the biggest fucking like sideswipe they're gonna ever have in their fucking life, because they're
Yeah.
gonna be like, what the like so many art history teachers are like teaching, they're like, you gotta focus on identity, and they're refusing to pay attention to the identity building works that are happening currently, right?
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
then when it all comes to fruition, like it's literally, I legitimately think it's gonna be like one of the biggest shocks to like even the fine art space, because people are gonna be like, well, you didn't tell us about this, and like, what the fuck, this is insane, you
And
know
I'm fully self-taught. Like everything, like my entire art process is essentially like I have a scene in my head and I do everything in my power to create it. Whether that means photo bashing or illustration styles or whatever, but I use everything at my disposal to, create the scene in my head. So uh I know and you say like, this project will be like the biggest shock to people. And you know like I said, my art journey is new. This is not even a full year of me being a true to myself artist and doing my own work and living by my own code. So it's just kind of surreal that I'm already getting to this point, and I already know, like, and I'm usually very humble about my work,
mm,
and I still am very humble about my work, but I recognize that this project is something huge, like something that could be huge. So yeah, yeah,
I
I'm so excited for it.
you should hype yourself up for it. It's
I
like,
got to. And also something I realize is in order for a project like this to happen, um
mm,
and not just modern day, but even throughout history, right? The artist who does it has to be that guy.
mm,
They know that they have to be that guy. Like Da Vinci, he knew he was that guy.
yeah,
Michelangelo, he knew he was that guy. These
yeah,
people, they knew that even though I'm sure they suffered from imposter syndrome and all that, they knew they were those people, and they knew the impact and all that their art would have, and throughout the ripples of time, not even just through their technique, but their storytelling, their framing, their composition, just everything. They knew that for years and years to come, people would emulate them or expand upon them. And I feel kind of that shift going on, not just in this project, but in the space where there are people rising up that have unmatched stories to tell. And whether that's a gospel like me, like
mm,
building a universe and telling the story of not just religion and history, but also self-reflection and kind of like a coming of age journey for myself. Um, there are other people who are making like there are people who tell stories, just like, for example, Yasnir. Yasnir is
Mm,
one of my favorite artists. I love that guy. And just the way that he expresses himself through his art, like you can feel the
it's
emotion, you can
crazy.
feel the heartbreak.
It,
And then my other friend Jules as well, like you can feel it. You can feel the passion, the storytelling, the heart that's like oozing through these pages. And even though it's not a snapshot and a journey, it is. The story isn't just, you know, point A to point B, but it's the journey of the art,
mm,
journey of the artist and telling their story. Um,
it's,
yeah, man, I think that's so
it,
powerful, so important. I can feel the shift coming.
it
It's
is. I feel it too because it's like, I mean, you've stated it multiple times, right? I have images in my head, right? And it's like so many creative people have images and have not only the will to create, but the need to create, right? It's not even about will. It's just like some people literally need to be able to create, otherwise it's just gone. It's done. It's not a fun time for us at all, right?
Mhm.
And so it's like when that need gets rewarded and then you actually see your work like be not only accepted but validated, right?
Mhm.
It essentially just pushes you to work further, and it's like, I
Yes.
mean, legitimately, like I don't think there has been this sort of like supportive space, right? And it's like,
No.
then like not
Yo,
even, it's crazy, right.
I I'm in like I'm almost in shock right now too because my so I lived with my grandparents for
Mm,
a good like 2 years or more. Um yeah, there's a whole history on that, but maybe
mm,
I'll get into that, another day or do a documentary or something. But I lived with my grandparents
mm,
for a while, and my granddad is a pastor, and he was the head of the conference that we all went to church in and stuff. So he's big shit, and he's very religious, very SDA, second of the sun sets on Friday night, Sabbath time. We turn on 3ABN. He used to not even turn on 3BN, but turn
mm,
on 3ABN, pray all the time, and watch several church services Saturday morning. Just he is a pastor's pastor.
mm,
And I remember I showed my grandma the proof of concept of Mark the Accuser, the main character, and I said, "Do you want to see my new project? It's kind of blasphemous, right? Because all the religious imagery and all that, and I'm putting my face,
mm,
myself in this godly position is almost, the character is almost like a modern Jesus, right?"
mm,
And I showed her, and she laughed, and she was like, "It is kind of blasphemous, yeah, but it's really nice. Like, it's good work." And then I kind of explained to her who the character was and the symbols, and she was like, "Oh, wait, it's not that bad." And and then I'm like, "Oh, well, whole time I thought that I was skirting on, sacred ground. So, like I was playing with fire." And then more recently, I was talking to my granddad about it because I didn't
mm,
really want to talk to him about it because I was afraid that he would be like, "Yo, that's fucked up.
mm,
Like, why would you do that?" And I told him, I said, "Yo, do you want to hear about my project?" And I told him what it was. It's like that is kind of a subversion of Christian mythos, and I'm looking at the Gnostic texts and all that. Like, I was straight up honest with him. He was like, "Really?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm writing a gospel." He was like, "Really? Wow, that's awesome. Like, that's interesting." I was like,
wait,
"Wow."
what?
And I was like, "What?" And then I was like, I kept talking to him about, my life, what's been going on. And I was just
Mm,
like, my granddad is so supportive of this. Like the way he was talking, and I could tell he was proud of me. Like he was proud where I was and what I was doing and just the things I was creating and the life I was living, the career I built for myself. And I was just like, wow, like this is a dream. I'm living my dream. I'm creating my dream. This is my dream project. Like I'm really just this is the future is crazy. The things that we can build, and the stories we can tell, like there's almost no downside. There's no downhill from here. Like it's only up. It's only up. Like we're about to I think this is going to be like the artistic, the like a modern renaissance again. Like I'm so excited.
I believe it too. I think that's like a lot of people are saying it feels like it's gonna be a renaissance, and I really believe like so many creative minds, just like so many
That
creative
never had a
minds,
chance. Never
right?
had a chance to tell a story with the way that art galleries, the way that publications and news stations and all that, that the stories that they pick, are they just want the clicks and or they want the sure money, and a lot of Black indigenous folk and other creators and stuff that would have never got the time of day. I would have never got the time of day at a gallery because I make digital work for the most part, and I'm not too versed in anything other than like graphite and charcoal. So,
Mm.
so it's like I would go to art galleries and just look, and it's like, man, it'd be dope to have residency here, but what would I do? Who am I going to sell to? Like, I don't think I would ever fit in this world, which is kind of what discouraged me from joining it, as earlier. But now I have the opportunity to not only tell my own story um, free of limitations, but now I have the opportunity to fund myself and fund the story. And the people who are funding it it's not some angel investor, it's not some VC, it's not some rich guy who's gonna buy my piece
Mhm.
for 50K and then flip it for 2 mil and I get nothing. It's friends, family, fans, collaborators. Just it's the people who really, really support it, who are gonna be the ones who fund it and make this happen. And I just think that's so beautiful, man.
I mean, you couldn't have said it best, man. And it's like everybody's excited. Even the Wagme Warriors are super excited. Like
Yeah,
everybody, Wagme, like, man. I like
yeah.
to me like I've said this. I don't know how many times I can repeat it, but it's just like what the religious themes and all of that to me. It's like I am legit excited for it because like when this shit comes into fruition and I can take this to my professors and I can be like, see, I told you so. I ain't. I'm not fucking crazy. I'm not the only. See, like it's because, like, man, universities are so resistant to everything,
Hmm.
and you would think like professors would be like photography. Let's talk about photography. Photography's been rejected by the fine arts world for years, and you're like, okay, cool. You think we would have learned from that sort of mentality? Nope. They've been rejecting digital works for years, and now they're rejecting NFTs. Like, it's great. And then you look at it, and everything that the art world, the fine art world, craves, and like I sort of describe it as an art historian's wet dream, right? Like like
Hmm.
literally, an art historian's wet dream is what's happening in the NFT space as we
Yes,
speak,
yes.
and they just don't want to look at it. And I'm like, just look, like take a fucking look. The shit that's happening here is equatable to like fucking like contemporary artists that you're like spending like I don't know how much to try to be able to like get one piece of like, and they're like,
Hmm.
nah, it's crazy.
And they're all there. A lot of what people are asking is the bare minimum. you
Yeah,
know they're just asking, like, all I'm really asking is just funding for the project, nothing too crazy. And all a lot of these artists are asking, not even this big scope as me. They're just asking for money to live
yeah,
comfortably so that they can continue to create.
like
And no hiked up price tag. Sometimes there are, but no high no hiked up price tags. You don't gotta spend $1 million, $2 million for a piece for me. Don't got to. I it, yeah.
and you get your royalties too,
Get your
right?
yeah, man. It's magical. It's
It's
amazing.
like, yeah, like, can you believe it? It took us till 2021 to be able to get ourselves royalties on our art.
Yo, I remember when they were breaking down, like when Amir was breaking down kind of how galleries and shit work. It's like, oh yeah, so the gallery takes 50% of the sale and then they
Yeah,
sell it for millions of dollars. So then you got to be like, well, then I have to hike up my price in order to pay for myself for and
exactly. Yeah,
and then it's going to get sold for 20x after that, and I'm not going to get a cent of that. I'm not going to see anything. One thing that's like so heartbreaking about the old art world is, like, for example, Basquiat.
Mm.
His foundation can't get a hold of his works,
None
even
of
though
it.
it's tragic. Like, these people are hiking up the price tag over and over and over again, several millions of dollars trying to get these pieces. And meanwhile, his family, all they want is just a memento of him, but they can't have it. They can't get it. They can't buy it back. It's heartbreaking,
That's
and they don't get any portion of those sales at all. Like, it's out of their hands, and it's heartbreaking. But now we kind of have the tools and the systems in place where that will never happen. Once the piece is made, every time it's sold, you get a piece of that, and that is huge. That's huge, man.
it's
Huge.
it's revolutionary. It's like so many artists now. Like, I mean, the Basquiat this year sold for 66 million at Christie's,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Jeez.
imagine just the royalties off of that. Goddamn.
Right. Yeah, just 10% of that is still
It's
that's still like what, 600. Wait, what's 10% of 66 mil? Is it
it's-
600,000?
I'm not
Is
good
it
at math.
66? Mm, 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 and point. Uh, well, I kind of fucked that up. But hold on. But yeah, keep going. Keep
Oh
going.
yeah, 10% of 66. But it was just crazy seeing 66 million um go on a piece and then realize his family's still alive. Right? He has.
It's 6.6 mil is the royalties.
Jeez. I
Yeah.
mean, that's enough to literally like feed generations. Well, not maybe
Yeah.
not generations, but like establish a
That's
like
establish a generation.
yeah,
That's enough to like make. That's enough to start a dynasty, like an empire almost.
yeah.
Like,
It's
from
like
that kind of springboard, and the fact that he's had so many sales of that caliber, or slightly less than, let's say, like 40 mil, 30 mil, 20 mil. Every time sale like that happens, his foundation could have had enough to continue to build. But it's not the reality. It's really heartbreaking, but it's also exciting that we finally have the opportunity to prevent that, and also the opportunity to cement our artwork, our culture, and all that for generations to come. But yeah.
yeah, you again, man, you couldn't have said it best. Like, it's we're like we're definitely gonna be talking more and more as your project releases, because I
Of
like
course.
just in DMs like, holy shit, this what you're messing with is it's like it's legit. I legitimately believe it's revolutionary, just because it's like nothing like
Thank you.
this has come before, and it's like so many of us are doing the exact, well, not the exact same thing, but are like doing the same thing for ourselves and our cultures,
Hmm.
that it's like at some point we're gonna all are gonna be forced to meet it and interact with our
Hmm.
works. It's bound to happen. Like, too much energy is like willing it to like legitimately, because like so many people are like I've heard like through talking to you and through talking to other, like so many people are building on this, that it's bound to happen. Um, so, dude, thank you for coming on. This was fucking great,
Yo,
legitimately. Um, I like those listening. I guarantee you, their brains are fucking. The wheels in their brains are turning. They're like, hold on a minute, I need to go do some research. Um,
yeah, it
I
was a pleasure. It was a pleasure to be here, and a pleasure to talk with you. And talking with you is so like fun and entertaining too, because we're on the same wavelength. So I can just kind of riff about these things. And yeah, pleasure, man.
Exactly. It's like it's great. I've included your Twitter
Hmm.
in the description, as well as your link tree and your foundation link.
Hmm.
As and then, do you want me to include your Instagram link on there, or
Nah.
no? Okay, and then if you come up with any other links, and also when the project releases, I'll probably go back and update the links down low.
Yeah,
So
perfect.
everybody listening, go follow Dylan, go say hi, go try to bid on his work. I think you're sold out on foundation, actually. No?
Yeah, I took my last piece off foundation and put it on Zora for 75 FWB. So yeah, the only works I have are available are it's like edition of 5, a couple of them on Rarible.
Mm.
Yeah, that's my only works available right now until I drop this project, and then that'll be mostly what you see from then on.
All right. Well, you heard it here. Everybody, go raid the Rarible and the Zora, please. But yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed this talk. Go follow him on Twitter, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.
Peace.